Hello, welcome back to another exciting episode of Yomo, a year of magical learning. Today we are doing episode 67, and I'll let Chris introduce the book and his reflection.
Yeah, so the book is a little bit out of scope of my normal books that I read. It's a novel this time. So do you guys know who Jack Kerouac is?
I've heard of him.
True.
Don't
Heard
know
of him, yeah,
specifically.
Yeah. Do you guys know anything about this dude?
No.
I didn't either, honestly. Whenever I would hear that name, I'd be like, oh, I feel like I know who that is. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like a really famous dude.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know he was a writer, to be honest with you. I was like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't even know he was a real
heard
person.
it.
I thought it may have been a character or something like that, like in a movie or whatever. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, he's a real guy. This book is about, it's a book called Big Sur that he wrote in 1962. It was written over a 10-day period of time when he went to Big Sur, California to escape and to get away. At this point in time in his career, he was really famous and he was like Jack Kerouac, and everybody was like, oh my God, it's Jack Kerouac. And he's like in his mid to late 40s and all the kids looked up to him and idolized him. And he just wanted some time away. And he lived on the East Coast and he drove out to California and stayed with one of his friends in his cabin up in Big Sur, and he was trying to get away from everybody. He ended up going to San Francisco, and then he ended up spending a lot of time with all of his beatnik friends, and they all came with him up to the cabin because he didn't want to be alone. He went back and did all of his stuff that he was running away from, which was he was like an alcoholic. He smoked too much, he womanized too much, he did too many drugs, so basically his 10-day retreat turned into 10 days of his normal life, and he was just more lost than ever, and he was depressed and really really lonely. I mean, it was kind of a really sad book, to be honest with you. Like I was like, man,
So you would say he's at a crossroad?
Well, no. So that's what the reflection's about. So the reflection title is what happens when you don't find a mission on your quest. As I was reading this book, I was like, why is this guy so famous? I mean, once again, I had no context about it. This guy's life sucks. It's sad, it's miserable, he's lonely, he's depressed, he's an alcoholic. He seems like he doesn't trust anyone, and this guy's life sounded just miserable. So I started actually researching Jack Kerouac in general after I finished this book, because I was like, I've got to be missing something, right? I was like, why is this dude so famous? I found out that he, along with a couple other writers and poets, were the founders of the Beat generation. Are you guys familiar with the whole Beat generation?
No.
So you guys know the term beatnik?
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know what it means though.
So the Beat generation, like literally Jack Kerouac was one of the guys that started it, and he was like he was the epitome of the Beat generation, right? And what a beatnik is. And so like by definition, the Beat culture is a rejection of the standard narrative values, making a spiritual quest, the exploration of American and Eastern religions, the rejection of economic materialism, explicit portrayals of the human condition, experimentation with psychedelic drugs, sexual liberation, and exploration. So, I kept researching more and more with the whole Beat generation and what was this whole thing, and came to find out that it really kind of kicked off with Jack Kerouac's first book, which is called On the Road Again, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one, but that's like his really famous book, right? So this is when he was still in his 20s, and I hadn't read it at this point in time, but I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, I must be missing that Jack Kerouac, where everybody was like, man, I'm in love with this guy because 20 years later, he's this miserable, wretched old dude, right? So it made me start to think about how did you go from this guy that was so inspirational, that inspired a movement, to this guy that's miserable, depressed, and yada yada yada, and a guy that's life sucks really, and I felt really bad for him. And I couldn't help but think this is what happens when you don't find a mission on your quest, right? Like quests are awesome, right? Exploration is great. When you go out and you're trying to explore the world and you're trying to figure out yourself and you're trying to see new things and shake out of the status quo, and all that stuff is exciting and everything. But if you don't have that compass, if you don't have your values, if you don't have anything to kind of guide your way, you can really get lost on a quest. And that's what these kids all set out and started doing. And he was like the pioneer of this. And I felt like he was just like the poster child for what happens if you never find a mission on your quest, right? He just kept doing the same shit that they did when they were in their 20s that everybody looked up to, exploring drugs and sex and womanizing and traveling everywhere and doing all this bad stuff. He ended up dying when he was only 50 years old from drinking himself to death. I mean, it sucks, right? Bottom line for me is questing, when you're on a quest, right? It's amazing, but it's not for the faint of heart. You better go into it with a compass, i.e. your values, or some sort of a guide along the way to keep you anchored to what you're trying to do to get out of this thing. But but you're going to discover a lot of stuff and you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself. But you got to get out of it at some point in time. You can't always be questing for the rest of your life, because you'll turn into, Jack Kerouac in Big Sur, California is my thought. So, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts about that just in general. Well, thoughts about questing, thoughts about You know, what happens if you don't find it? How do you find your mission when you're on like a quest or something along those lines? Yeah, just open topic.
Well, Chris, I'm curious maybe if I misunderstood you at that last point, because for a second it sounded like you said you shouldn't be on a quest. But I feel like we do want to be always on a quest. Your values should be guiding you along that quest. And that can change from time to time, but have some idea about what you want to become, let's say, and you use your values to get you there. When you're saying Jack Kerouac kind of almost was just nebulous in any idea about it and was just kind of exploring pleasures rather than, is that what he kind of seemed like he was doing? He was just exploring his pleasures almost.
Exactly. Well, they did other stuff as well. I mean, they were very reflective, wrote very well. They explored a lot of their thoughts and stuff. But at the end of the day, they just kept getting wrapped into the same cyclical, like it was a bunch of stuff they were doing without ever having a point to it, you know? Like,
so that begs the question, what is a healthy quest? And I don't know the answer, but maybe as we go to Trio and maybe to Chris next or whatever, like maybe we can explore that. Then what is a good quest or a healthy quest or a righteous quest? Trio, on to you.
For me, I don't think Jack is on a quest at all. Because when you're on a quest, you're looking for something. And I think even if you don't find it, you will find it fulfilling, even though you say, well, I try my best. I don't think Jack is on a quest because he's say, okay, I don't want to look for anything. I just want to go with what the wind takes me. Right. And to me, from his activity, he say, okay, if I meet somebody, I do whatever I want to do. That's not a quest. A quest is looking for something, looking for a value, looking to find yourself, explore for a purpose, not explore just to say, okay, as long as it's not the whatever mainstream that I'm trying to get away. He's more like I don't know, maybe a spontaneous traveler, if I could call that. I don't think he's not looking for anything.
I think he was in the beginning. That's why I said I had to go back later on down in this journey. I did end up reading On the Road again.
So even if he looks in the beginning, I think he lose sight of that quest and he's not on a quest anymore. Because I think if you're on a quest, then you're looking for something. And to me, a quest in itself, it's target. It is a quest. We say, hey, I'm on a quest. Well, by definition of a quest is you're looking for something. You have something to guide you. In his case, like after I don't know about the beat or whatever, he's just saying, well, I want to be liberated. I want to be free from these shackles of society, whatever. That may be a quest, but it's not really looking for anything. He's looking to get away from whatever it is. And so he said, well, anywhere but here. And that's not a quest. I don't know about you, but for me, that's just running away.
I think a quest can start with running away, though. Like, I think a quest, short for question, right? It's like when you decide you want to break away from the societal norms and you want to start questioning things and you want to start exploring new ideas and new ways of living and thinking and doing, right? Like that can start from running away. It's just like,
right. But you say it's a start. It's not the actual quest.
Right.
A quest is like when you say, I have a question, I need to answer. And he's right. To me, it's like, okay, I need to find myself. I need to know what I'm supposed to do. I need to know what makes me feel some, peace and tranquility or whatever. You're looking for something for a goal. But to say, well, I don't want that. It's not really a quest yet. It's to say, hey, I'm just questioning if this is for me, and to not take another step. You're not stepping into a quest. So that's what I'm thinking when I'm hearing this story of this guy Jack.
So
right.
So I like to think of a quest as like a tornado, right? You just step into it and it's going to take you wherever it takes you, like you can't control.
No, I disagree with that. I don't picture that at all. I'm looking for something and I'm going to go one path, right? And they say, well, that path, again, closer, again, farther away. And I make decisions on I will turn around or turn left or turn right. I'm looking for something. I'm not letting a tornado take me whatever I want, wherever it wants. Because that's not a quest. You're not looking for a thing. You just say, well, give me a ride. Anywhere. Give me a ride anywhere. That's not a quest.
it's not a quest in the beginning, but it can turn into that. Like I feel like you can center yourself in the eye of the tornado and still, go to where this thing is taking you, kind of thing.
A tornado, right? It's not like you can control the path of a tornado. A
No,
quest you do.
Yeah.
You can say, well, I don't want that. So you can get off of the tornado. You can get out of that ride, right? If you hitchhike across a country, you get off of that ride. You have the control to decide to move forward, to go left, to go right, to go back. To me, that's a quest you have control over, because if I say I want to be healthy, right? Oh, I'm just gonna eat whatever I want and I'm gonna be healthy. That's silly, right? I say, well, I eat this, I feel bad. Oh no, I gotta stop that. Gotta do good other side.
Right.
So to me, that's a quest. You control that, but going on this tornado and let it takes you wherever it takes you, it's not a quest in my mind. I don't know. Maybe my definition is.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like, there's a different definition of like, it's kind of talking about semantics at some point. But like, I mean, a quest can be short, it can be long. You could wake up with a quest. Oh, I'm going to become president. Next day, never mind. I'm going to get on a different quest, let's say.
I agree.
A quest starts with one step, right? If you say I'm going to go to a quest, right? Like, for example, you say, hey, I want to be president, right? What is the president need to be? Oh, I need to know about politics and I'm going to read on it. So at least it's taking a step towards learning about politics, learning about the different parties, learning about the influences or whatever you want. At least you're doing that. At least you're controlling that. But to say, okay, I want to be president and then let the world takes over.
Do you have to have a goal when you start a quest? Like, I don't know that Jack Kerouac ever had a goal when he started.
That's
his
exactly.
quest.
So that puts.
I mean, during the quest,
you don't have a goal. Logic.
I disagree completely with that. I do not think you need a goal to say that I want to step outside of the societal norms and standards and then know exactly where I'm going. That's the point of the quest, is to find your path, right?
No. Yeah. It's not about knowing where you go along. You're looking for something that you need an answer for. I need to know how to figure out the answer to the question of whatever, immortality, health, how long can we live, religion, whatever the philosophy, I don't care. But you have a question that you want to answer. And a quest, it is the act of finding the answer to the question, right? But if you don't have a question, it's not a quest.
It could be a becoming, though. Like, I mean, it could be a quest to be a boxer, a professional boxer. It's not really a question. I mean, maybe there's a question inside there. How would I feel?
Well, it's how do I become a boxer? That's the quest. How to become a good boxer or whatever.
But I guess I'm just saying, like, it sounds like you were saying it's always linked to an exact question.
A target.
I think it's like
I'm thinking about target. A target is harder.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to that kind of like this image about who we want to come, and it makes me think about the book. You guys were talking about the molecule of more. I found that fascinating. Really, that concept totally fascinating, and I went on a little quest to dig a little bit more into that. And I think it does, kind of end up coming down to that, like whether like you idealize like, hey, this is what it'll be like, and that dopamine does drive you on.
Right, and the thing is, it's a correlation. It's not a.
But anyway, back to the quest, though, I think that, I don't know, we can be real analytical and say that's not a quest, this is a quest. No matter what, everybody is kind of on some quest, though, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Think it's just kind of like, how does that person define it? Or that's we're like, oh no, I don't really see that as a quest, because maybe that's not how I would do my quest. But I think everybody is just on a quest.
I 100%.
So if
agree.
it's all, I guess it's all go back to the same the agreement we have is all depends on how you define what a quest is. Because for me, it's like, if you say if I'm going through life without any like heeding my desire of finding my happiness, is that a quest? In some cases, yeah, you can say that a quest, but that's not a quest that is a control quest. It's a quest because you're just living.
That's the key, right? Like your whole life is a quest, right? Like I think Snow is totally right. I think you're right as well. When I was writing this, and what I feel when I think about when I wrote this reflection in particular was like, after Amelia passed away, I kind of went on a quest for the next year of my life, and I didn't know where it was going, but luckily I found, and I didn't ask for the question either, right? There was no goal, and I didn't ask for the question, But like, I was questioning a lot of things pretty hard after my daughter passed away, and it led me down a path to this conversation today, right? But the only reason we get to today from where that began was because I found some values along the way to guide my journey to get it to where.
Wait, say that last part again. The only reason you found some value?
The only reason it got from no idea where I was going with, and no, I don't even know if I even had what my exact question was. Like, I was just thrown into it, right?
Your quest was, or like what was your quest that you were on?
I don't know.
Along the way, in the definition you guys have, that's a quest.
Well, exactly, it is, but we can still be the authors and then create our own quest.
So
exactly.
the Chris, you have a value, but I'm saying that's something you anchor on.
Right, it's a guide. It's like a
value. Yeah. So to me, the value is a target. That's what I'm saying is, a quest, a real quest is that, meaning a control quest. It is something you anchor your sight on. You can call it a value, you can call it whatever you want to call it. It's still something you target. Before, you just say, well, this is life. And this is how I knew how life was supposed to be. And I just go through life like I'm supposed to.
Right. That was when a quest didn't have my life before Amelia was like a Jack Kerouac quest. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I was to the level of him, but like, I didn't have a mission to guide. I didn't have values to guide my journey or anything along those lines. Right?
It would be like, the quest to survive.
I don't even know. I guess to be successful by whatever society.
Survive. To be successful is like, based on the Maslow's pyramid, is you have to have, security and basic housing, food and all that. So you go through life, a quest to survive, to be the most kind of step up on the human ladder, to be the best chance of survival. So you questing for that by default, because that's what all human beings do. Yeah. But then after that, you say, well, that's not enough. I have to be fulfilled. I have to feel like I'm worth something. I have to be whatever. And then that quest changes to a control quest, meaning that you have an anchor, you have a target that you're aiming for. Before, it's just a default aiming of having the ability to survive the best you could using the default mode, which is let your system one takes over and do whatever it needs to do. Be competitive or be whatever you need to do to be the best chance of survival.
Yeah. Well, and I think these kind of controlled quests can be more fulfilling for individuals, because it's sort of taking everything you've become, it's who you are, and like you get to define sort of your life in your quest rather than just to survive. So I think people who usually are maybe more satisfied in life do create some controlled quests.
100%. Like, that's kind of what I was getting at with this whole entire thing, is like, I feel like it always, the genesis of it, like when I read On the Road, the original Jack Kerouac book that kind of launched him into the whole beatnik generation, basically, you could feel the guy's life in his writing. You could feel the energy. You could feel the excitement. You could feel this was new. This was exciting. This was fresh to all these people. They were learning new things all day, every day. They were exploring new stuff. All this stuff was like so brand new and fresh. And you could literally feel it in his writing. Unfortunately, that did not ever turn into anything that could hold him and anchor him into a direction going forward. It just was still that same tornado, that led 20 years later. And he's writing this book where he's still doing the same shit of trying to explore and learn new things. And, but it's not fun and exciting anymore. It's not new. He's just stuck in the cyclical, like, no answers, no guide, no values, no nothing to guide the quest, like he's just.
Do you think he would have seen it like that?
I think he would have. I mean, I think if he sat down and he talked to somebody about it, I think he would have. But at a certain point in time, when you're too far gone down your quest and you haven't found anything, I mean, it's probably really freaking hard to turn back around. You know what I mean? Like, think about people that are stuck in a job for 30 years of their career and they're like, well, this is it. Like, this is just what it is. Like, somebody might sit down and tell you that and you're like, what do you want me to do? Like, do you want me to start all over again? Like,
no, I think I was talking to Trio for what Luca was screaming a little bit, like, about my own personal quest here. And like, what is my personal quest? Is it to just create a healthy environment? I mean, or like create a healthier environment for people to live into. So like create an easier environment, because our environment dictates so much about how we can be healthy. And, whether through teaching and growing food for our school or taking kids on hikes, make it easier for them to be healthy and be happy. And I feel like that's kind of like my quest right now. I'm still kind of like formulating it, I guess, a little bit. And I have my values that I'm looking at, but just like also seeing how it can come together with pay and everything and all that stuff.
I think any quest starts with a question, right?
Definition of what we agreed on is everybody's on a quest. It's just a matter of switching your quest to something more consciousness.
Exactly.
Like, go ahead, Aaron.
No. I think I was just starting to just agree with what you're saying. Like, yeah, that rather than just a living quest, you're creating a personal quest, and
right.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually going on a quest because you're already on a quest no matter what. You're always, everybody's on a quest. It's just that you decide to switch to a different quest. The quest that your system 2 is actually controlling versus letting system 1 controlling the quest.
Is one better than the other, you think?
I think so.
I think it is,
like subconsciously, you only have evolution to tell you what you need as your point of reference, as your value. When you have system 2, which is your conscious brain, you have choices. You can make the choices that is, align with your, with who you are, with your being, who you are.
So by better, I guess you mean like you'll have a more fulfilled life.
It's more compatible.
Okay.
When I say better, it's compatible because you are a certain person that you like a certain thing. You control the option that aligns better with that.
Yeah. It's balance, it's alignment, it's sustainability. You know what I mean? Like you have control. I think you make a really good point. I think we all are on a quest. You either know you're on a quest or you don't know you're on a quest. Either way, you're on a quest. If you do know you're on a quest, then you need to take control of that, and you take control of that through values, right? Like I feel like Jack Kerouac was on a quest and he knew that he was on a quest. He just never took control of that quest. The quest controlled him. Like if you try to go break from the unconscious quest that we're all on, kind of thing, and you try to break from that mold in reality and you try to take control of it, but you never give it any direction, like you're screwed. Like you're gonna, like, it's going to be a shit spiral of, like, I think of people that are in like the entertainment industry or something like that. They're like, I want to be X, and then they go break from the mold and they start to do all this crazy stuff. And, eventually that whole tornado of the new quest they started out, like Will Smith, right? Like great example, his whole desire to be the most famous movie star in the world kind of thing. Like, leads you to punching somebody on the stage in the Oscars, because like, I'm pretty sure his quest is in control of him versus him being in control of his quest at this point in time, until you ask that question.
Right. You need a replacement. You can't, the quest is automatic. The only way to stop default quest is to replace it with a conscious quest. The moment you let go of the conscious quest, your subconscious will take over, but that's by design. It will default that. You have to replace it with a different quest for the other one to be idle.
Why do you guys think some people do make that leap, and why do you think some people do not make that leap?
So this is the atomic bomb theory for me. I think some people are forced into making that leap, i.e. myself, right? That was the atomic bomb literally blew up my matrix, I guess, if you will, when my family went through what my family went through. My life didn't exist anymore. It was up to me. It was a blank slate because literally the bomb blew up my entire world. I don't know how to simulate that, not argue about, have been discussing, like how do you create that for other people without having to go through a really painful experience in an atomic bomb blowing up the world, right?
Yes.
Like I don't know the answer to that, and that is the beautiful question, right? Like that's what Clubbing is. That's what we've been trying to work on for
my theory is, and you're taking the Matrix example, right? There's no way you can get that. There's no way you can realize it until you have a glitch in the system. That glitch is AKA the atomic bomb. Okay, that glitch takes the first person out, and then that person goes and disconnects the other person. They have to wake the other person from their trance for that person to realize it. So the atomic bomb has to happen. The glitch in the system has to happen for that person to wake up. And the first person wakes up, he is going to decide to unplug the next person and the next person and the next person.
What was your glitch? Or do you feel like you've woken up then?
Yes, I've hit an atomic bomb because I came from Vietnam, right? Different culture, a culture shock. Even then, it didn't wake me up. I was on this trance onto doing whatever was told by society to be this person. And I was really good at what I did. But I sacrificed my health. I sacrificed everything to get to the point where at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just like I built a castle and somebody destroyed it. And so that means that I'm hitting a brick wall. At that moment, I give my youth, my health to this thing. and it's not giving me back any rewards. And I was basically bound, like have a concussion of some sort. And one of those days when, just like how Chris, you have this nervous breakdown. Well, I kind of had similar. I get to the point where I say, damn it, I was so frustrated with the work that I was doing, right? And I was so exhausted that it breaks me down. And I get to the point where I have to answer that question. Is this worth it? And that's when I start to question what I'm doing. Slowly, I was looking for things like, so that's why I found Chris. That's why I connected with Chris so well, because I really understood him and he understood me. And so more and more I was waking up. It may not be an atomic bomb like Chris, but it's still a glitch in itself. And then meeting Chris actually solidified my belief in what I'm seeing.
You believe in like, hey, this personal journey, this personal quest.
Right. Because
It's
otherwise I still believe in staying in the matrix and be fooled by whatever that I was told. So like I say, if I would have to say, if there anything that I can do to wake myself up without external intervention, the way that I see how my life unfolded, it could not be. It could have been from within.
Yeah, so that's your question almost, or that you guys both kind of look at, like, how can we wake people up without having them go through such things? And I don't know.
Well, I think we're on to something. That's what the whole quest, that the whole
give
core
him some
values.
peyote, give him some drugs or something,
Yeah. Well, the molecule more, going back to that book, right? Dopamine is driving your actions, right? You can either, I don't know that you need drugs to do some of these things. Drugs definitely spur you on.
If you want to call it that way.
Right. But you could do the same thing with just doing the things you like to do every single day in your life and doing more of that, right? You're going to get the same,
It does take something though, because I think we get into our habitual patterns. It does take some kind of like large wake up call, whether it's a group thing, because I think that's kind of what the landmark education is supposed to do. I think, Chris, I talked to you about it before. Yeah. Like, it is this kind of like group aha moment from like going through this like revelation about how you've been living your life. And it's like sort of these aha moments. A lot of people come out like woke in a way. So I would agree. I don't necessarily think it's drugs, but it does need to be like someone needs to tap into you, and whether that's either life or just some thoughts kind of do need to wake you up, I guess. But hopefully not. I mean, shit, I'd like to be in education, so it's like I could teach these teenagers kind of like this stuff before. So it's like it's
right.
Not
and education could be the infiltration, because you're talking about if the matrix, right? The computer has written this code to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with your life, until a code has been written that is against the algorithm, against the rule. And that education could wake you up, because in the end, Neil actually wakes people up without having to unplug them.
What wakes people up?
The signals. So the education could be the signal, but the education has to come from the person outside. So in a matrix, for example, in the end, Neo actually did not unplug the people. He just basically changed the programming inside the system. In education, they wake up themselves.
Yep. And this is literally, Snow, what we're trying to do is the systematic, giving, like, so, right. So the question becomes, like, when you are 50 years old, or you're your age right now, right? And you're like, well, I've been doing this now for so long. How do I just change without, I just can't do that. Like, now there's things that could force you to do it. Like, i.e. an atomic bomb could force you to just be like, look, what do I have left anymore?
Or I get fired or something like that. So
sure. Yeah. I mean, there could be certainly something where you're just like, I don't know.
But sometimes that's the thing, like, people, and I think that does happen to people, and they're like, wow, that was the best thing that happened to me, because it kind of woke them up. Because, like, I mean, it's, we do think sometimes that we end up like living forever, and it's like, that's not true.
Right.
So
the goal of what we're trying to do, right, is to take away that limitation of somebody saying, well, I can't leave. That's why we're trying to build this like 70K or whatever Montessori workplace where you can just go live a safe space where you can be around other people to help grow and do what you want to do. But then also the core values quest is to kickstart off your quest, get you thinking, get you questioning, get you asking questions, get you, writing, reflecting, learning, like living the core values of that we think the club and the organization side of everything, but then also like exploring your own. So then you could walk into this new environment going, look, it's like simulated atomic bomb, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the plan, I guess, but we don't know if it'll work.
But at the same time, you have to create that home base. In the Matrix example again, you have to create that home base when you wake people up, right? You can't just wake people up and say, hey, this is the world you live in. You have to have your home base somewhere on a spaceship or whatever, just like in the Matrix, so that they create their own a little, spacecraft that they call home, or inside of some sort of an underground resistance or whatever, home base for people who wakes up to go to get support. Because otherwise, how can they survive? You just unplug them and say, well, you're on your own. It doesn't work that way.
You need a community still. Like, actually, taking this thing full circle, because I know this is a long conversation. So going back to the whole Jack Kerouac and the Beat Generation, like they tapped into something, right? They broke a lot of people, quote unquote, from the Matrix. I mean, they built a movement. Him and the 4 other people that were like, the kind of the pioneers of the whole Beat Generation. They're writing their reflections, their conversations, their poems, whatever, woke a lot of people up. The problem is they just never had a mission ever. Like,
right, you woke them up, but you didn't ask them to do anything.
Right, yeah. I mean, they just all spiraled down into nothing, and you find yourself 50 years old and drinking yourself to death, and it's like, that's sad. This is what happens when you don't find a mission on your quest, right? If you're gonna unplug from the Matrix, you better damn well find a mission. Otherwise
you just come back in, or you'll just end up being the sort of like depressed in a way.
Right, exactly. Like that's exactly my reflection is this guy's depressed because he never found a mission. He's 20 years into this thing and he's still doing the same shit, and he's like, ugh, like I don't like my life. Like, I can't even spend 10 days by myself. Like I hate myself so much, Other people think I'm really cool, but I don't, because like I know that I haven't figured anything out yet. I have no direction, like
and I think and maybe we want to wrap up this episode. I feel like we have more, but it's kind of like I have a little bit more to say, but it's kind of a long one.
I'll keep going. I mean, we're already,
I mean, I think a large part is like a quest is like giving back to, I think a quest changes from time to time though. Like maybe initially your quest could be the best baker in the East, and then eventually after that, it's really like, your quest is to help liberate people and have them be good entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. It has a target, and a target could change.
It has a target, yeah. I think we all agree a quest that we feel like will be most fulfilling is one that is personally inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to go. So imagine like Neil Anderson, right? He got unplugged from his job. Life is normal. Suddenly you unplugged him and say, well, this is your new world now. It's all shitty and like it's all robot and everything is a wasteland, right? And all the human beings are being used as batteries. And then you say, okay, good luck. That's your quest. Your quest now is to survive. It's not to say, hey, I'm going to liberate and destroy the Matrix. Think about it. He's going to go crazy or go depressed if that's to say, why did you wake me up in the first place?
Right.
If you're going to show me the sad side of the story, leave me in my dream, right? But they took him out and say, well, I need you are the one to break this Matrix. And that's what gives him the will to live. That's the target. Because without a target, he's going to be like Jack Kerouac.
Yep. And that's my problem with sometimes this East Coast philosophy or ethos out here. It's like, oh, global warming is bad and humans are creating problems. It's like, hey, wake up, humans are bad.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, well, no wonder these kids are depressed if the parents are telling them that. Like, but I'm like, no, we have a great opportunity. Like, don't assume you know it. If things are bad, well, let's freaking fix them then.
Right.
We're going to be contradictory at times, but like, I think that's why like our
that's why it's depression. These kids get depression because that's what you told them. Look, this is the nasty side of humanity, right? That's it. Okay.
So, questing is not for the faint of heart, man. Like, I mean, it's we're all on it.
Conscious questing. Conscious questing is not a faint of heart.
I didn't have to watch The Matrix again.
True did. So
I like The Matrix. If you,
okay,
right. You couldn't tell.
No, that's a good conversation. Just to be like wrapping it up on my final thought on this. This is why I love this journey, because like the teaching back, right? Like I was writing about this today actually, because I just finished a book called Legacy. It's about the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team or whatever, and it's about like how they build their culture and everything. It was a really cool book. But at the end of the day, my reflection was about pass the ball was one of the things he kept saying all the time. Questing in the beginning is all selfish, right? It's all about you. It's all about finding yourself. Eventually though, you're a swamp, right? And you got to release it somewhere. And like, this has been my outlet to release this stuff to help other people. True and I do what we're trying to do. And to be honest with you, as I have to talk through this stuff to you guys, like I have to get more clear as to what I was trying to say. We ended up talking an hour about it. And like, I think we finally all agree, or not agree, but I think we all know where we were coming from. Like, that's the beauty of this whole entire journey is it's no longer selfish. Now I can give back, but it's still selfish at the same time because I get to do this with people that I like. We're creating meaningful work. This feels good for me, but at the same time, it feels good to help other people.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We're all selfish. It's just, there's a cutoff point. I think that the beautiful thing about humanity is there's like a certain point where we're like, I don't think it's right to be selfish anymore. I think I've had my fill. I'm going to go help other people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when that tipping point is, but it happens like for everybody, right? Well, hopefully. I guess it doesn't always happen, but
Yeah, well, it's always just continually happening.
Right. Anyway,
once you get your feel, it's going to go the other way. And I think it can be different for different people, but there is a flipping point, like a tipping point. Like, so at that, it's going to flip.
Right. It's the molecule more, right? Like the dopamine isn't kicking it in anymore, like helping other people helps the dopamine keep going.
Yes.
Because it's like, how many more times can I read a book and write a reflection for myself? Like, I got to share this. Awesome, guys. Well, that was a good chat. So the question we can leave with anybody that's still tuning in here is your quest stuck in limbo? And how can you turn your search around?
How can you tell?
Yeah, right. Do you even know you're on a quest? Maybe that's the first question you should ask.
On a quest that you want to be on.
Controlled quest. I like that. Quest. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, guys, and we'll see you all soon.
See you next time.